Hello and welcome to the BigFig, and today we're going to be talking a little bit about street food and how we can make it fresh and exciting. It doesn't have to be boring. The dish we're going to make for you today is going to be ginger beer battered halloumi with Asian style crushed peas. The ingredients we're going to use, simple ingredients. We've got lemongrass, ginger, shallots, chili, garlic, got some cooked peas, some halloumi cheese, and we'll be using some tempura flour to make our batter with some ginger beer, which I'll demonstrate a bit later. So first we'll start by chopping some chili and lemongrass, ginger, garlic and shallots. Get ready for our Asian style crushed peas. So I'm just going to take the top off and discard, and then I'm going to slice the chili lengthways. So slicing the chili lengthways, we're going to get rid of the seeds in the middle. We'll just put it open like that, take a little cut down there, and then we can just scrape out the seeds. We don't want the seeds in there because they're the hottest part, along with the white bit. So little incision just to take out the white bit and the seeds, scrape them out, get rid of them. And then what we're going to do, we're just going to line them up side by side, keeping our fingers in just to keep our fingers safe. We're going to just slice the chilies very thinly. And then once we've got those little strips, we can just put a hand on top of the knife and just chop them up so they're nice and thin. The next thing we're going to add is our lemongrass. Got that real nice citrusy Asian flavour in there. We're going to top and tail it, discard again, and again we're going to slice down the middle, get that chopped in half, and the same again as with the chili, we just chop very finely, keeping our fingers in, so nice and thinly. Important to chop the lemongrass very fine. Normally in Asian cooking what you do is just bash a stalk of lemongrass and stick it in a curry or something like that, but here we really want the flavour, but we're going to put it in really nice and finely so that it cooks very quickly. All these ingredients we're going to cook very quickly, so just so they soften and give us the flavour. Because it's going into crushed peas, we really need to chop it up nice and fine, otherwise it's going to be a little bit tough to eat. So this nice and fine now is going to ensure it's edible for us. No nasty chewy bits, but all the lovely citrus flavour and smell. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is a shallot. This is a banana shallot, very commonly used in Asian cooking. So again, cut down the length of it, peel off the outer layer of skin, and if you can see there, I've left one side on, and as I demonstrate the chopping technique, you'll see why I've done that. This side here that I've left on is going to help keep the shallot together as I chop it, slice it I should say, lengthways. So I've got strips lengthways like that, and then I'm going to cut it this way. So we've got all these little strands being held together by the bottom, and then I'm going to make very fine slices, and that's just going to give us very fine dice. It's just a nice easy way of doing it. That leaves us with lovely small slices. Next thing we're going to do is the garlic. Just going to top and tail that. You can do what we just did with the shallot. Not entirely necessary though, it's kind of up to you. What I'm going to do is just going to slice it And then, as we did with the chili and the lemongrass, just chop it up nice and finely. What we're looking here is a sort of minced garlic. That'll do us. And the last thing is going to be our ginger. So I'm going to take a little bit off that. Don't need too much of this, it's quite a pungent flavour ginger, so just a little knob of ginger. Just going to take the skin off it. And take thin slices off it. Chop it sort of lengthways. Keep bringing it in. And then away from you. That's it, there we have some minced ginger. Okay, so now we've got all our ingredients finely chopped up. We're just going to saute them off quickly. We don't want to get too much colour on them, we're just going to just soften them all, getting ready to go into our peas. So I'm just going to chuck a couple of tablespoons of olive oil in there. I'm going to start off with some shallots. Probably a couple of tablespoons of that. Maybe a teaspoon and a half of chili. About a teaspoon of the ginger. Some of our lemongrass, probably about a teaspoon again. And I'll add my garlic last, because garlic cooks very quickly. We don't want it to burn. So you can see now we've got all our beautiful, lovely colours there. You can't smell it, but it smells fantastic. We've got really lovely oniony smells, lots of the citrus coming through from the lemongrass and the ginger. So they're nice, because they're chopped up so fine, they're cooking very quickly. It's literally going to take a couple of minutes. Just going to give them a little stir around there, just so they don't catch. They'll take another minute or so. So now all these ingredients have softened up nicely. The last thing I'm going to do is chuck in probably about a teaspoon of garlic. And this will cook very, very quickly, literally 30 seconds. With all of these stuff, we don't want to lose any of the flavour and the aroma, so very quickly cook them. Just going to keep it moving so that the garlic doesn't catch and burn. So another 15 seconds ago, and you can immediately smell that lovely garlic aroma combining with all those flavours. Okay, and so that's us done. Quick as that. Take that off the heat. So now I'm going to add my peas. These are peas I've cooked off earlier, and they're just sort of frozen peas you can get in any supermarket. Really easy, really cheap. So I'm just going to add a good sort of handful of peas into there. Maybe a handful and a half. Give it a little mix, and then being that we're outside, we don't have any electrical power out here, what I'm going to do is just use a potato masher and just give them a good old crush. And we're not making a puree here, it's literally crushed peas. If you were doing this at home, you could use a food processor just to kind of pulse them very quickly. But as we're out here, this will do nicely. And so the last thing I'm going to add to it is just a little bit of salt and pepper to heighten all those flavours, make it taste lovely and delicious. Ooh. A little bit of pepper, a pinch more salt, crush it all in, give it a little bit of mix round, and we're going to leave those to one side. We'll come back to those later and heat them up once our halloumi is ready to go. So the next thing we're gonna make is our ginger beer batter for our halloumi that we're gonna deep fry our halloumi in. We're gonna be using tempura flour, which is Japanese flour, and it's made from a variety of ingredients, including corn flour and rice flour, wheat flour. It's special because it gives you a really light crunch, which is what we're kind of looking for here. So I'm going to start with the ice, and I've got my ginger beer here, ginger beer that you can buy in sort of any shop, anywhere really. I'm going to add that to my ice. Normal tempura flour will be made with just fizzy water, iced fizzy water. So I'm going to sort of add the tempura flour to and we want to make a batter that's not too thick but not too thin, so it just sticks nicely to our halloumi. So I'm going to add that in, grab my whisk with the ice still in, whisking it, and once it's kind of whisked in, that's a little bit too thin, I'm going to add a little bit more flour. That's looking just about right. So we're going to keep the ice in the bowl to keep our batter nice and cold. That's really going to help with our sort of crispy crunch around our halloumi. So that's nicely done now. I'm going to stick this out of the way. I'm going to grab my halloumi cheese now, which I've cut into quarters, little quarter cubes there. And it's a mixture of goats, sheep's and cow's milk cheese. It's particular because it doesn't actually melt, which is why we can deep fry it. It'll soften. If you grill it, it'll get a nice crust. Obviously we're going to batter it, so it's not going to get a crust other than the crust that we're going to put on it. But it's great for deep frying because it doesn't melt. So I'm just going to coat it in a bit of flour, just a bit of plain flour here, and that's going to help the batter stick to our halloumi. So I'm going to whack it in, get it nicely coated, and then just drip a little bit of batter into the pan of oil, just to make sure it's nice and hot enough, which it is. And then I'm going to drop a little bit of halloumi in the pan. So using a pair of tongs, I'm just going to move it, make sure it doesn't stick to the bottom. So it's already starting to seal now. So I'm just going to give it a little turn every now and again, just to make sure that the halloumi is cooking on all sides. And once it's kind of golden brown, then we know the halloumi is done. So our halloumi is a beautiful golden brown now. Giving it a little turn, looks lovely, and that's kind of ready to come out now. So I'll just pull that out of the pan. Stick that ready there for presentation. And then the last thing I'm going to do, I've reheated my Asian peas here, and I'm just going to squeeze a little bit of lime into them just to finish them off, and it's going to kind of add an extra little zing to the whole dish. So there we go. To one side, and we're ready to plate up. So just in the center of the plate, a little pile of our Asian peas. It's lovely. A little beautiful golden crispy halloumi there. Got a little bit of confit red pepper vinaigrette that I made a little bit earlier. And I'm just going to drizzle that around the edge there for an extra bit of colour and sweetness. Balance out our dish. And I'm going to pop under here, grab a little bit of watercress, which I'm just going to pop on top, and there you have it. Ginger beer battered halloumi with Asian style crushed peas